What's going on, everybody? This is dkdynamite, and I'm sure a lot of you guys out there are currently missing the Black Ops 7 beta. It's been just over 24 hours since it ended. I even saw some comments suggesting that they should have just left the servers on until the full game's launch on November the 14th. But tonight, we're going to be talking about how classic Call of Duty multiplayer is absolutely 100% back within Black Ops 7. Definitely stay tuned. Now, just yesterday, following the end of the beta, Treyarch ended up dropping a small dev talk over on their channel where they went ahead and confirmed a number of different things that we're going to dissect here in this video. First off, they mentioned that over the next few weeks before November 14th, we're going to be seeing plenty of other dev talks breaking down various elements of the game, which, by the way, I wanted to mention real quick because we haven't really seen much marketing at all for the actual campaign. We know Endgame's going to be a real big expansion for the campaign as well, so wouldn't doubt a couple more intel drops or maybe even a dedicated gameplay trailer going over the co-op campaign and the big open world Endgame expansion. We'll see if we end up getting that, but they also mentioned specifically that we're going to be getting some Zombies exclusive dev talks, probably breaking down other aspects of the mode that they just didn't reveal over at COD Next. Of course, Season 6 and The Haunting are also ongoing for Black Ops 6 to round out the game's life cycle. A lot of events and rewards, though, are going to be sprinkled throughout the next couple of weeks. A lot of things didn't actually kick off or get added into the game as of yesterday, so we're still going to be revisiting Black Ops 6 as much as we can in the midst of all the upcoming BO7 marketing. But one of the first things that Matt Scrontz actually mentioned in the intel drop is that Dexterity movement is being considered for the default movement within Black Ops 7 multiplayer. This has been heavily requested by lots of people out there in the community, and he said, and I quote, "We're looking at our options. We'll have more details to share coming soon." In my opinion, I don't believe they're going to actually make Dexterity movement default, but they're probably going to make a bunch of tweaks to the movement to make it closer to Dexterity, to where Dexterity itself isn't as much of a crutch perk, to where it really does make the movement feel as good as it currently does. If I had it my way, though, I probably would make Dexterity movement default just to make sure that that doesn't end up being a crutch perk throughout the whole game's life cycle. Then again, I do see Matt's viewpoint and probably the whole Treyarch design team, which is that they don't want the aggressive movement to be the staple of Black Ops 7 multiplayer going forward, which Dexterity obviously promotes. Now, they also addressed a number of other topics that for the longest time, for at least the last 5 years, I've considered, quote, non-issues. What I mean by that is not that they aren't actually problems in Call of Duty, but non-issues to the point where Activision would likely never end up addressing or changing these things, to the point where discussions about them are almost pointless. That's not to say that players online shouldn't voice their concerns respectively about features or mechanics that they feel should be changed, but I honestly never thought we'd see the day where every single one of these topics we're about to talk about are mentioned in just a single blog post alone. Let's start with aim assist. As they said, I quote, "We've also seen the discussions about rotational aim assist and community questions about how aim assist will be tuned across inputs in Black Ops 7. It's a priority of ours to have a fair and competitive balance across all input devices at launch, and we'll be sharing more about changes coming to aim assist on controller ahead of launch." I get it, I've seen plenty of clips out there proving that aim assist on controller is just a little bit too strong and honestly puts keyboard and mouse players at a disadvantage. I think a lot of the competitive pro players in the Warzone scene specifically have probably voiced their concern the most about this issue over the last couple of years. The thing is, I'm not saying the controllers shouldn't have aim assist, but I don't think it should be as good as it is now, because not only does it put keyboard and mouse players to shame sometimes, but I also think it puts players who might not be as good at the game in these positions where they're winning gunfights they probably wouldn't have if aim assist wasn't actually that great. Now, people can speculate all day why we're finally getting a lot of these issues addressed, even though folks have been talking about a lot of these things since at least Modern Warfare 2019. You could think Battlefield, you could think Microsoft, you could think a number of different things. The way I see it, the reason doesn't actually matter. The community wins at the end of the day, and hopefully this all remains a staple going forward for every future Call of Duty entry, regardless of which studio is making the game, and you just gotta hope that we don't walk back on a lot of these great changes come next year with Modern Warfare 4 or the game afterwards. And I would also hope to see this level of transparency and communication regardless of how successful a new Call of Duty is. The next thing they address, folks, which I was hoping they would come out and talk about, I just didn't expect them to this soon, is that at launch, I quote, "Open matchmaking with minimal skill consideration will be the default for Black Ops 7 multiplayer." Hopefully this also gets introduced into Warzone in the future. Simply put, imagine the matchmaking experience of Open Mosh Pit from the beta, but as the standard in Black Ops 7 on day one. Our team feels strongly about providing players with a more varied experience, and the beta proved to be a great opportunity to test this approach. We'll be sharing more details as we get closer to the release. Now, I'm not gonna lie, you're still gonna see a bunch of sweaty lobbies here and there throughout an open mosh pit, as we saw in the beta. So with this being the standard for Black Ops 7 matchmaking, it's gonna mean a number of different things. First, yes, there will still be a bunch of sweats that occasionally will run into you across match to match. That just happens because while skill is minimally considered for the matchmaking, it still is a component when you queue into a lobby. It's still there, just not as aggressive as it has been since Modern Warfare 2019. I also think it's great that ping is king now, so you'll probably be queuing into matches within a good 5 to 6 seconds like the good old days, which honestly I haven't been able to do, like I said, in a good 5 to 6 years. I think it's also going to create a scenario where players feel like, hey, if I got stomped on this game by a bunch of demons, maybe I backed out, maybe I didn't, but the next game just won't be anything similar. Now I bet it's going to open a can of worms where some folks say, hey, they said that open mosh pit was the standard, yet all of my lobbies are sweaty, and that could be more of an indication of that specific player's skill level who's complaining. Maybe they're just not very good, or expect bots to run into a wall every single game. But regardless, I think a lot of rage baiters are going to be out of a job when it comes to BO7, because even though they mask all the negativity behind, quote, trying to make the game better, there's going to be very few things they're going to be able to complain about come Black Ops 7's release. But something that we've been talking about for many, many months that I believe the beta was already testing out, unless it was just pure coincidence when I was playing, is persistent lobbies. So ever since at least Modern Warfare 2019, we've been seeing lobbies disband at the end of every match, with no ability to queue into that exact same lobby that you were in. Of course, you have to take into account that players sometimes back out right at the end of a game, maybe a bit sooner. You're not always going to see a perfect 6v6 where every single player is the same. I totally get that. But I was reminded by a tweet I saw just recently that Cold War's Alpha a couple of years ago actually featured persistent lobbies, but the feature was nowhere to be found come the full launch of that game. So Treyarch then said, and I quote, "We've heard the community discussion and dialogue around lobby disbanding, and as we mentioned earlier during the beta, we're focused on keeping players together for match to match more often. Today, we're excited to announce we'll have persistent lobbies at launch for BO7, and we're committed to improving this experience for players, as we'll be sharing more details soon." And that's the thing, right? When it comes to building a strong community, I think persistent lobbies does play a good role in that. Maybe a team beats you, so you want to do a rematch. Maybe you become friends afterwards, or maybe you do have a pretty good lobby with some people that were on your team, and you're like, let's just keep playing together. You forget to send them a friend request, but you happen to run into them again in the very next match since your lobby just didn't disband. Now, all these components that we've been talking about are seriously a part of that classic Call of Duty multiplayer experience, which in my opinion has been lacking quite a bit and quite heavily since Modern Warfare 2019. So I gotta say, it feels good to be back, and I think it's gonna be a real strong year for Black Ops 7 multiplayer. The last thing they mentioned in this blog is a little bit of an update regarding Team Ricochet. They did confirm that on day 1 of the beta, 97.5% of matches were completely clean of cheaters, but by day 5, so the very end of the beta, that number rose to 98.8% being cheater-free. The team has more beta results, key learnings to share soon, including how we're unleashing our full suite and detections for the launch of BO7. So to some players out there, this data might not mean much. I know there's folks that claim every single lobby has cheaters. Some folks over-exaggerate, thinking that if they lost a gunfight, it must be because that other player was cheating. But I think the transparency about what happened during the beta is still important, regardless if some people out there don't believe it. They also mentioned 97% of cheaters were stopped within 30 minutes of their first sign-in, and fewer than 1% of cheating attempts reached a match, and those who did were removed within minutes. I also saw plenty of clips of content creators and streamers reporting a cheater live in their game. I only saw a few clips of this, but you can actually see in some of their footage that the person was banned literally within that same match. But overall, that is about it. This has been dkdynamite. Leave our thoughts down below in the comment section. Do you feel that classic Call of Duty multiplayer is back with BO7? I get it, it's a futuristic game, there's a wall jump, but other than that, when it comes to core features like persistent lobbies, like an open mosh pit with skill not being considered as much, do you feel like all of those components really do make up a classic MP that we really haven't seen in many, many years now? Leave our thoughts down below. Really hope you've enjoyed, and peace out, everybody.